So Batman Arkham Origins is technically a Christmas game in the same way that Lethal Weapon and Die Hard are Christmas movies. But seriously, Batman Arkham Origins takes place on Christmas Eve, and very early Christmas morning. Um, and it's basically this night of Batman roaming around Gotham when a crime lord named Black Mask hires 8 assassins to basically go and get him. He puts this multi-million dollar bounty on Batman's head, and a whole slew of dangerous individuals like dirty cops, bounty hunters, regular criminals come and try to get the bounty by basically killing Batman. Some of those criminals include Bane, Copperhead, Deadshot, Deathstroke. So Batman's got a lot on his plate, and also he has to contend with this new guy in town, called the Joker. To me, there was a lot riding on this one, especially since the previous 2 games in the series, Batman Arkham Asylum and Batman Arkham Origins, I still maintain are the best comic book games of all time. I played through each of those games, boy, I don't even know how many times. But I love those games. I mean, they're just fantastic. So when I heard they were making a prequel, I was just, okay, that's a little odd. I mean, Arkham Origins kind of left it at a nice spot or Arkham City kind of left it for a nice spot to kind of expand. I mean, the Joker was dead, and you could tell that Batman was troubled by that. So I don't know. Maybe Ra's al Ghul brings him back with the Lazarus Pit. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but that's not what they are doing. This is a different developer. I mean, the first 2 Arkham games were developed by Rocksteady, and this one is developed by a relatively new developer called WB Montreal, who basically, they had the resources and they had the game engine from the previous Arkham games, so they were basically using the template that was already established by Rocksteady. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, so it's not like they can really screw this up that much. And right away, my general opinion of the game, I've finished the game. I'm currently playing through New Game Plus. I've tried out the online, and I've done several of the challenge maps. My general impression of the game is it's very good. I mean, I would even say in some areas it's great, but it's not as good as the previous 2. And something told me that I would kind of discover that going in. I mean, like I said, the previous 2 games set a very high bar. I mean, I hate to use this example, but because this is just so on the nose in terms of the subject matter, but it's kind of like how Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises is a very, very, very good movie. In fact, I think it's a great movie, but it just does not measure up to the previous 2 movies, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. So this is kind of like that, except this one is a prequel. Dark Knight Rises was the conclusion of a trilogy, but I digress. So I did really like this game. I do really like this game. But there are some very glaring issues that I will talk about later. But the story is, it's not quite as strong this time around. I mean, it is game worthy. It is worthy of being told, but I don't know, the assassin plot kind of eventually fades in lieu of the kind of the origin story of Batman meeting the Joker. It's not actually an origin story of Batman. This is like, I think they say his second year as Batman, and it's kind of telling the origin of how he met the Joker and whatnot. So the assassin subplot kind of gets pushed to the background in favor of the Joker plot later. And the script is noticeably not as strong. I mean, you could tell that it's not Paul Dini. And I don't need all of my Batman games and movies to be written by Paul Dini, although that would be nice. But the script, you can definitely tell is a different writer. Or writers. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, this script was written by the guys who wrote the Assassin's Creed games. And it's not like it really resembles the script of an Assassin's Creed game. I mean, you can definitely tell that this is a Batman script, but again, it's just not as strong. I mean, the lines are not as good. The plotting is not as tight. So, and there's a lot of retreading. I've noticed, like the plot of the assassins basically having their shot at Batman during this one night. It's kind of like the scenario in Arkham Asylum where Batman was essentially on Arkham Island, and all the supervillains, or not all of them, all the supervillains who were in the asylum at that point basically got their shot at Batman. So it's very similar to that. This is a minor spoiler alert, but there's a reveal that is done by the Joker that strongly resembles a reveal that he did in Arkham City. Yeah, other than that, the story is, I mean, you won't be dissatisfied. You won't be going like, oh god, this story sucks, or this script outright sucks. I mean, this, again, it's good. It's good. It's just not as good. The voice acting is basically the same way. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, gone. I mean, they are nowhere to be found in this game, and I knew that going in. I mean, I was not going to be like, oh god, that this. I was going in with an open mind. I mean, I was going to be like, okay, this Batman and this Joker are noticeably younger, so it kind of makes sense for them to have different voices and different looks, even though Penguin sounds the same as he did in Arkham City, but whatever. Roger Craig Smith, who some Marvel fans may know as the voice of Captain America, it is Batman, and Troy Baker is the Joker. And now hearing Troy Baker in The Last of Us and immediately jumping over to this is a little jarring because you honestly don't recognize him. I mean, Roger Craig Smith and Troy Baker are basically doing impressions of Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy. Roger Craig Smith is a little less noticeable because he's basically doing his Ezio voice. I mean, he's doing his, like, from Assassin's Creed. Again, from Assassin's Creed, Roger Craig Smith is basically doing his Ezio voice, but with an American accent. And it works. I mean, he does sound kind of like you would expect a vastly younger Kevin Conroy to sound. So he works. I mean, at times he can be written a little obnoxiously, but that's not the fault of Smith by any means. And Troy Baker, you can definitely tell that it's not Mark Hamill. I mean, it's very easy to tell that it's a different guy voicing the Joker. But with that said, Troy Baker does manage to do a credible Mark Hamill impression. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about these two guys, except they both turn in very good performances. Considering considering they both felt they really had nothing to add that hadn't already been perfected in the previous two actors who inhabited these roles. Considering that these guys have actually acknowledged that we are just trying to follow in these, we are just trying to measure up to these guys. We are just trying to do right by these guys. I mean, they do. I mean, you won't be sitting there going like, wow, Batman really sucks, or the guy playing Joker, I really don't like that guy. No, they both do a good job, as do the rest of the voice actors. I forget who plays Black Mask, but Black Mask is actually kind of forgettable, but that could have something to do with the fact that, that could have something to do with the twist in the middle of the story, and that could also have something to do with the writing, basically falling back on making Black Mask this very two-dimensional crime lord guy. I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't really like Black Mask as a villain, because a lot of the time he's just written so two-dimensionally that I'm just like, oh, okay, it's the stereotypical gang leader, except with a black mask on. Let's see, who else is in the game? The guy that plays Alfred. The guy that plays Alfred actually does a very good job. I mean, I believe in the first two, in Arkham City, it was Martin Jarvis voicing Alfred. And he did a very good job at this, but this guy gets to shine a lot more as Alfred, because Alfred is actually given a lot more personality here. I mean, seeing as it's early in Batman's career, he's not really as comfortable with the idea of Bruce Wayne gallivanting around at night as Batman. So he has some protests. He seems much more relatable. I mean, he seems much more identifiable. He seems much more human. So I like the guy that played Alfred. Nolan North is still a lot of fun as the Penguin. I mean, some people were kind of off-put by the fact that he was doing this really strong Cockney accent in Arkham City as the Penguin. I mean, at times it actually sounded a little Australian. I thought he was funny. I mean, I liked Nolan North as the Penguin, so I didn't really have a problem with that. And he basically does the same kind of shtick here, albeit with fairly reduced screen time. Bane is alright. I mean, the guy playing Bane doesn't really add anything, but he doesn't really detract anything from the character either. I mean, he basically plays that usual tough Hispanic, deep-voiced Hispanic guy, kind of like Danny Trejo. He's playing it very Danny Trejo-esque. I mean, which, I don't know, it's fitting. I mean, Danny Trejo did voice Bane, I think, once in that Young Justice TV series that I never watched. So Bane, I like the fact that Bane is one of the more noticeably different characters from his Arkham Asylum and Arkham Origin or an Arkham City counterpart, is that he's a lot smaller for one, and you can tell that he's a lot more intelligent. I mean, he's this big mercenary guy who's in this mask. He wears this big leather jacket. He's not huge. I mean, he doesn't look or sound like the Incredible Hulk like he did in the other games. I mean, he's written a lot smarter in this game, which actually adds credibility to another twist later in the game, where I don't think I'm giving anything away for comic fans here, where he discovers Batman's identity, and basically trashes the Batcave. One more voice actor I actually want to talk about is Deathstroke. Deathstroke, at first I didn't like the guy who was playing him. I mean, I didn't really think he sounded intimidating enough, but then I heard the way he read some of the lines, especially in the challenge maps, like I took advantage of the pre-order bonus and I got to play as Deathstroke in some of the challenge maps, and I heard the way he said some of the lines. I mean, he sounds like this really hardened soldier. I mean, the way he delivers some of these lines, he sounds like this really weathered soldier. And I actually found that to work. I mean, I actually found that worked surprisingly well after a while. I mean, I actually got used to his voice, and yeah, I mean, I like this guy as Deathstroke. Again, I don't know who played him, but yeah, Deathstroke. I actually also really like the fight with Deathstroke. It was a little annoying at first, but much like the voice actor, I don't want to say I got used to it, but I got into the rhythm a bit more, and I actually felt really accomplished when I beat him. So yeah. As for the gameplay is largely the same, although they do make a few relatively minor changes that don't always work. First of all, they switched the buttons around for activating the detective mode. I mean, you know how in the other Arkham games you aim your weapon, you aim like a batarang, or you aim the grappling hook or the grapple claw with the L1 button, I believe it was. You aim that with the L1 and then fire with the R1. Well, here, and also you activated detective vision with the L2 button. They switched those. I mean, you now activate detective vision with L1. I'm going strictly by the PS3 version here. I don't know if it's any different on the Xbox version. I don't have an Xbox, but you activate detective mode with the L1 and aim your weapon with L2. And for a while, I really had trouble getting used to that because I could not fathom why they would change such a simplistic control scheme. I mean, we've gotten used to the other control scheme for 2 games, and you change that minor detail, but you don't really change much else. And you also now fire your weapon with the R2 button. You can do that like first-person firing with the R1 button, where you throw the batarang and the camera follows the batarang. But again, I got used to that using the R2 button in the other games. You now aim everything with the L2 button. That goes against my senses when playing these Arkham games. I wanted to spray some explosive gel on a wall, and I accidentally activate detective vision. But yeah, the gameplay itself, they add some new gadgets, which actually I think make a lot of the game a little too easy. Like, they add these shot gloves that you get from this guy called the Electrocutioner, and when you rack up a certain number of hits, you can push L3 and R3 simultaneously to activate these shot gloves. Well, that's just an awkward thing to do in the middle of this kind of free flow combat that these games have going for it. I mean, you're pushing square, you're pushing triangle, and then all of a sudden the game prompts you to activate the shot gloves with the analog sticks. True, you don't have to, but it helps you rack up large combos. It does more damage. So just for the sake of ease of gameplay, your natural instinct is to immediately activate any advantage that you can get. And they put it in such an awkward place. But the thing is, activating this basically makes every single fight completely one-sided. Once you activate these shot gloves, it basically takes a lot of the tension out of combat, because these shot gloves can punch through shields, they can punch through armor, they can punch through stun batons. They do a lot more damage to big guys, like remember Mr. Hammer, those big hulking guys with those big hulking twins with one arm from Arkham City. There are a lot more of those giant guys now, and the shot gloves basically do a lot more damage to them than Batman's normal fists do. So that's one of the things that makes combat a little too easy. And also, there's this remote bat claw that makes Invisible Predator kind of a breeze. Where you're in a room, you can actually, when you're actually on top of one of the gargoyles, you can fire this remote bat claw at an enemy, which once it hits the enemy, it can grapple onto whatever else you were targeting at the time. So if you target an enemy and a gargoyle, firing the remote bat claw at the enemy instantly ropes him up at the gargoyle and takes him down. So a lot of these gadgets I actually handicapped myself by not using, because I wanted a challenge. I wanted a decent challenge. I was playing on normal, and I found that using this remote claw thing and using the shot gloves basically turned it into easy mode a lot of the time. I mean, if you really don't want to, you don't have to get on the ground for most of the Invisible Predator encounters. I mean, you don't actually have to do any great takedowns. You don't have to do any vent takedowns. You don't have to. There are barely any breakable walls for you to use your invisible gel on. So yeah, So I'm not really sure how to recommend the gameplay if the tools they give you actually make you overpowered. I mean, if you handicap yourself, it's a decent challenge. But again, should you really have to do that just to get a decent challenge out of the game? The online is actually, I found, very creative. I mean the online, I think it's a little bit of a missed opportunity for one reason, and I'll explain that reason in a second. But the online basically consists of 8 players divided into 3 teams. I mean, 3 players go on are part of Joker's gang, another 3 players are part of Bane's gang, and they basically go at it. And the remaining 2 players play as Batman and Robin, and they basically grapple and sneak around the arena, taking down members of each team as they go. So basically you can trust no one. You can only trust 2 other people when you're playing online, and those are members of your own team. And it actually adds a fair bit of tension, being able to essentially being able to get killed at any moment by Batman or Robin who are hiding either above or below you. In addition to having to watch out for members of the other team who are trying to kill you with conventional weapons like machine guns and grenades and whatnot. So I actually like the online, but what I feel is a bit of a missed opportunity is that throughout the single player mode you come across all these different factions, all these different gang leaders, who each have their own unique henchmen. Like Black Mask's henchmen. Okay, they're in black suits and they each have black masks on. Mad Hatter, you briefly encounter the Mad Hatter, who I actually got a little bit of a chuckle, is voiced by Peter McNichol from Ghostbusters 2. But Mad Hatter's henchmen are basically brainwashed version of Black Mask's henchmen, but with bunny masks on. So I was thinking, why just restrict the teams in multiplayer to Joker's gang and Bane's gang? I mean, when you have all these other factions to choose from, why can't we have like a territorial war between like Bane and the Penguin or whatever? I mean, it's a little disappointing in that regard, but for the most part, it's very creative. I mean, I like the multiplayer, but here's where the game really falls apart, and here's where I think the reason is behind the review embargo that was placed on the game prior to release. I mean, there were little to no reviews for the game prior to its release day. And that is because of the numerous bugs and glitches that plague this game. Oh my god. When I said I liked the multiplayer, that was assuming I can even get it to work. Over the course of like 3 or 4 days, I think I've only played like 3 or 4 matches, which is pathetic. I'm not even talking like 3 or 4 campaigns of like 5 or 6 matches each. No, I'm talking like 3 or 4 quick matches that I could actually get into, because at first I couldn't even start the freaking match because it kept freezing when the intro was done playing. I mean, each match has this intro of the leader of whatever gang you're playing on. Like Bane will say like, Joker has chemical toxins in his plant. Seize the plant and wipe out the Joker's forces. And something like that. And as soon as that was done playing, I was getting all excited, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna wipe out some of the Joker's gang. But then the game would freeze and I would have to shut off my system. That happened to me like so many times when I tried to play a multiplayer match, and I got really sick and tired of it. Granted, they did release a patch recently to fix that, but that does not account for the other glitches in the game. I'm not really sure if this is a glitch or if it's just a problem with my connection, but if I wasn't getting frozen in the middle of a match, I was repeatedly getting denied access to matches. I mean, it said could not access a match at this time, please try again, or something like that. And I would go on, and it would go on for that for hours. Or not hours, but like 1 hour at a time. I would try for like an hour to get into a match, and nothing. I couldn't get in. And so that happened. So that happened when I tried to play the multiplayer. But when I tried to play the main story, okay, these Dark Knight challenges, they really need to do something about these Dark Knight challenges, because like in Arkham City, there are challenges. Like in Arkham City, it was a bunch of Riddler challenges where you accomplish a certain feat in combat or in an invisible predator encounter, and you would get this kind of Riddler achievement. Well, since the Riddler departs fairly early in the game, depending on when you wipe out his network relays, you're left with these Dark Knight challenges, which you need to do to unlock some of the gadgets. Like, remember that Sonic Shock Batarang? The Sonic Batarang. You throw the Sonic Batarang, and when the enemy comes close, you detonate the Sonic Batarang, and it takes the enemy down. Well, you can't do that immediately. You can't do that by playing through the story. You cannot do that by upgrading your arsenal of gadgets, because you know what? You know how you get that in this game? You get to rank 10 in the Invisible Predator Dark Knight challenges. I think Worst Nightmare is what they're called. And some of these challenges are just ridiculous, and you can't complete a lot of them when you finish the story. So I played through the story on normal, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back and do some of these Dark Knight challenges. But the thing is, there's no way to do them. There's no way to do some of them. Like I think there was one in the Worst Nightmare where you have to do four unique takedowns, like an invisible gel takedown where you take down an enemy by spraying invisible gel on a breakable wall. You have and you have to do a vent takedown, you have to do a ledge takedown, you have to do an inverted takedown, something like that. But the thing is, once the story is completed, there are no more walls to spray invisible gel on in Predator encounters. I mean, the only Predator encounters you have access to are those around Gotham, and none of those have breakable invisible, like, none of those have breakable walls which you can spray with explosive gel. So you have to do that on New Game Plus. Well, I did it on New Game Plus, but then on rank 9, I'm still on rank 9 of Worst Nightmare. Rank 9 calls for like in one Predator encounter do 4 noisy takedowns, like a knockdown smash takedown, the ledge takedown, the grate takedown, and the some other takedown. I don't even know what. But I did that in the New Game Plus, but for some reason, and I even looked at the thing in the corner, which tallies up how much XP you get for the fight. It says I did all 4 takedowns, and I did not get the Dark Knight challenge. I'm like, well, what the hell is that? What is that? I mean, and for some of them, some of these challenges you can do while free roaming Gotham, and some of them you can't. Like the slide into 2 enemies at once. Okay, you run and then push the R2 button to slide and knock down 2 enemies in one slide. Okay, I could do that in free roaming. I did it in free roaming, but then the game immediately turns around and says, "Oh, you want to do a Predator encounter without being seen and with no detective vision? Oh, well, you got to do that in one of the story missions. I mean, you can't do that in free roaming, even though there are basically little mini Predator encounters all over Gotham." So I've given up on the Dark Knight challenges, or I'm about to give up on the Dark Knight challenges, because it seems like they only give you completion status on these challenges when they feel like it. I mean, I know that's a very juvenile and illogical excuse for it, but it's the only one I can come up with. There's no pattern to this. There is no rhyme or reason to when you actually complete these challenges. I mean, I completed a challenge just like, I honestly think these challenges are bugged beyond belief. Because there was one of them where you're supposed to glide 25 meters while maintaining a height of 5 feet from the ground, or something stupid like that. Okay, I tried, I failed, and I forgot about it. But then later, I was doing a vertical dive and then glided up, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it says, "Oh, you got the Dark Knight challenge," and I'm like, but I didn't do it. It's really frustrating, and it throws you for a loop every single time. So that happens, and probably the one that pisses me off the most, which I still have yet to get. I mean, at the time of this video, I have yet to get a solution to, is the Season Pass. The Season Pass. I mean, people were telling me like, oh, you shouldn't buy the Season Pass. Not until you find out some stuff about it. But I was looking at the Season Pass, and it was telling me like you get extra story content and this like bonus level, Arkham Origins Initiation, in addition to all these costume packs, and 2 costumes you get right out of the gate, like Gotham Gaslight Batman and some other costume, I don't know. So I bought the Season Pass, so that's $80 I spent on this right out of the gate. But it's been more than a week since I bought the game, and still, the season pass, I have yet to reap any of the benefits of this season pass. All right, because the first time I got the game, I entered in all the codes, and the season pass was one of those codes. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna be able to play as Gotham Gaslight Batman, and then it didn't show up in the Batsuit chamber or in the challenge map. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's a little weird. So I played through the story, and then I got access to all these other costumes that I think you get by pre-ordering or by getting the Nightfall pack. So I I got Nightfall Batman, I got Adam West Batman, I got Batman Knoll for completing the game, I got New 52 Batman for doing something, I don't know, and I got Batman, this purple-ish Batman looking thing. So I got all those costumes, but none of the costumes from the season pass. Not Gaslight, not So I call GameStop saying, like, look, is this season pass faulty? I mean, is there something wrong with this thing? I mean, it says season pass download successful, installation complete. It says that, and yet none of the benefits are showing up. And so GameStop says, oh well, you should call Ubisoft Montreal. So I was like, Ubisoft? I assume they meant WB Montreal. So I called WB Montreal the Sunday after I bought the game. So I was calling them, but it turns out they only accept calls on business days. So I called back the following Monday, the next day, and then they referred me. I mean, I had to navigate through their menu, the majority of which is in French, because Montreal. So I got this person on the other line asking me, oh, did you go to the Batsuit chamber? Did you complete the game? Did you do all this? And I'm like, yes, and they're like, oh, that's a little weird. So then I got referred from them to WB technical support. So the technical support people are asking me basically the same kind of questions. Like did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Oh, maybe some costumes are not available. I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm hearing people say, like, oh yeah, I got the Gotham Gaslight Batman, and I'm going to the Batsuit chamber and the challenge mode, and it's not in either of those places. It's not available on New Game Plus, so I don't know what's going on. Could you help me out? So I'm asked for my email address, and they say they're going to email me sometime soon. So I get an email the following day, and the email basically says our best suggestion would be to delete the game data utility and then reinstall it, and then reinstall all of the downloads. So basically just uninstall the game was their suggestion. Uninstall the game and then reinstall the game and then re-download all of the extra stuff, like the Deathstroke pack, the Nightfall pack, the season pass, everything. So I waited for like an hour for all that stuff to download, and guess what? It didn't work. So I sent a reply back saying, look, it didn't work. I tried it, and thank you for your help, but it did not work. So, and hopefully this issue can be fixed. And after about 2 or 3 days, I didn't get any response from them. So I sent another email saying, look, I never got a response back from you guys. I don't mean to be rude. I don't mean to push you guys. So I'm still waiting on that response. But what I did get in the form of some widely released response to all gamers is a patch. Now this patch apparently fixes the multiplayer, so when I try to play the multiplayer, there's still the issue of me being able to get into a match, but at least the match is not freezing, or at least not that I've encountered. So the multiplayer problem is somewhat fixed. I mean, from a technical aspect, it's probably fixed, but from the standpoint of someone who still cannot get on, whatever. But what I found is the patch was supposed to fix a lot of the issues that gamers were complaining about, because a lot of the gamers, especially PC gamers, have complained, like, I'm falling through the world, I cannot progress through the game, my data is getting corrupted, blah 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 blah. And the patch was supposed to fix that. And another bug that I heard about is the people who pre-order the game the people who bought the game like online, like who actually downloaded the game instead of buying a physical copy, actually had problems getting the Deathstroke pack to show up. So this game is riddled with problems. I mean, once you actually get the game to work, if you do not encounter the problems, if you take the problems completely out of the equation, which I don't want to do because a lot of them are really distracting, they really take you out of it, but if you just take the problems out of it, this game is a very fun game. Yeah, it's more the same, and the changes that they do make a lot of the times are not for the better, but it's still a Batman Arkham game. It's not as good as the other ones, but I can't really blame them too much because it's a relatively new developer, and that was an extremely high bar set by Rocksteady. So I can't really be like, well, I'm extremely disappointed that this could not top Arkham City. Arkham City was fantastic. I mean, I think I described it as my favorite game of 2011. If not my favorite, it was probably tied with Uncharted 3 as my favorite game of 2011. So, yeah, there's that. But Arkham Origins, it's there are a lot of technical issues with the game that hopefully will be ironed out in the future, because I really want to get all the benefits of this game. I want to enjoy the extra stuff. I really want to. I keep thinking, how much more fun would this game be if this worked, or this worked, or this worked. I now somewhat understand the embargo, because maybe they were, I don't know, trying to make the game playable before critics got their hands on it. Because I was a little worried, because games and movies do not usually have a review embargo for before release, unless the publisher knows that the game or movie sucks. I mean, they did that with R.I.P.D. R.I.P.D. the Rotten Tomatoes entry for R.I.P.D. was blank prior to release, and lo and behold, on release day, I think it was sitting at like a 19%, if not lower. So, and I think Star Trek had some the new Star Trek game, the tie-in, the prequel to Star Trek Into Darkness. I think it had some issues pre-release. I think some of the developers and programmers were actually created fake accounts to promote the game. And review copies, I think, were actually handed out after release day. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's a very underhanded way of making sure your game sells. But but thankfully, Arkham Origins is not a bad game. It's not. I mean, like I said, it's a great game. I mean, it's. I mean, a lot of the issues I've talked about are just technical issues that hopefully will be worked out in the future. I mean, players in the future will probably get much more enjoyment out of this game than players who bought it at release day. Because a lot of the issues will probably be ironed out in the future. Um, so yeah, I really like this game when it worked. And I hope that a lot of the bugs regarding some of the challenges and some of the extra downloadable stuff. I sound like a broken record, but hopefully they can be sorted out so we can fully immerse ourselves in the game. We can go beyond the story. So yeah, that's about all I got for the the Batman game that I was playing on Halloween.